She got all dressed up, but then she said something like, oh, sorry I don't look that great. And it's like, first of all, you look beautiful, you look gorgeous. But second of all, we've been together for almost 20 years. You shouldn't feel like you have to impress me, right? Like, you look beautiful in a t-shirt and basketball shorts. And I meant that, 100%. I did not say that in the moment, though. The way that conversation went was her just saying, sorry I don't look that great, and then me saying, oh, that's okay. That's a problem.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Abbott, Executive Director of Cincinnati Cancer Foundation. I am here today with not only my friend, but our good friend as an organization, Mark Chalifoux, local comedian. When I say local, we're here in Cincinnati. But Mark's made his way around. He makes his way around in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places. And then I want to talk about a couple things today because I'm still not clear. So the dad.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, were you one of the guys that helped kind of found that?
So there was a guy, he's actually local to Cincinnati.
Helped
found. He created the concept of the dad.
Okay.
Before him, there weren't dads at all. He invented it.
He finded it.
So yeah. The dad is, one of the best parenting, social media brands out there because it's the funniest.
Okay.
And so it's a collection of us. Not all of us are even dads, but
okay.
So it's just funny jokes, memes, stuff like that. Things that'll stop people from scrolling on their phone, make them laugh, make them smile, give them a little bit of positivity into their day.
Gotcha.
So that's been a fun joke writing exercise for me. I was there on the ground floor, first few months as they were getting a writing team together, and my role sort of like grown from that. So it's a lot of jokes, but it's found a pretty significant audience.
Okay.
So it's weird for me to go from telling jokes on stage, traveling around the country, to being behind a keyboard for big chunks of my week. And, it's a different reaction. When you tell a joke in front of a sold-out comedy club, you get that instant feedback.
Yeah.
Now it's writing a joke, sending it out into the internet, and then you do see like how much engagement it gets, and you see wives are tagging their husbands in jokes because it's hilarious to their lives and stuff. So you find a different way of how it resonates, which is kind of cool to see.
And you said it's got quite a following. Am I wrong? It's millions?
Yes, it is millions. You are not wrong. You're on top of it. It's something like 10 million across all the platforms, maybe 15 now. But yeah, it keeps growing steadily. There's a lot of, celebrities will follow us and kind of share our stuff. And it's always fun when you see, other meme pages ripping off your work, but you're like, hey,
nice.
That's one that I made that's now benefiting somebody else financially, but at least it's hitting a bigger audience.
You're like, I'm being taken advantage of, but at least they're paying attention to me. That's
right.
That's
yes. Good. And to me, it feels like writing on a sitcom would in the 90s, because it's a stable writing gig for a comic. And then I can go out and do live shows at nights and on the weekends. And it's fun for me just because, I am a parent. Mm-hmm. I've made 3 kids. So it's kind of a nice way for me to sit back and just roast my children and then post it anonymously and kind of take all of them and their friends down a peg. It's very cathartic.
That's an important job as a parent, by the way, taking the kids down a peg.
It is. You need to let them know where they stand so they don't get too much confidence.
So Mark is going to be our Emcee for Cincinnati Cancer Advisors Wine, Women and Shoes event coming up on April 20th at the Manor House in Mason. And we're really looking forward to that. He's going to be a lot of fun as always. But so I want to go back to something you said a minute ago because this is why. But I have a lot of admiration for comedians because you said like, oh, it's cool because you throw out a joke and you get that instant reaction and everything. But I'm sure there's times where it's like it bombs, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
there are times. I don't know personally about these times, but yes, of course.
Because to me, it's like even like when I joke around, there's times where I'm like, oh, that didn't go over very well.
Yeah. So, and you throw it out and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good now. Now imagine that times 350. That's the feeling it can be sometimes. So,
but in all seriousness, do you get to the point? I mean, do you start to develop some kind of inner sense of like what's gonna do well and what's not? Or is there sometimes
you do? But what's amazing to me is even guys that have been doing this for 30 years will still bomb.
Okay.
And so you get to a point as a professional where you're like, I'm not gonna put on a bad show. It's not gonna be 45 minutes of misery for you. I know that you paid for a babysitter. babysitters, you went out to dinner. I'm going to put on a show. But when you're doing new material, even established guys, sometimes you think this is going to be gold and you throw it out and there's nothing there. And you're like, how do I not have that sense? I've toured, I've got millions of streams, and my jokes have had critical acclaim. How can I not figure out that one part of it? But sometimes, you'll have jokes that bomb, and it's, part of it is the audience, right? Okay. Like, so if it's just not the right material for the audience, sometimes you do that joke in a different room and it will crush. Okay. I think what's hardest for me, and I know you've done TV before, and so you don't have to be funny on TV, which is helpful, but that's just one guy. Yeah. So you'll be in markets doing like morning TV, and I remember doing one, I won't name the station or the city, it was Cincinnati. But anyway, during the commercial, they were showing the B-roll, and the guy's, not on camera yet, the host, and he's watching it. He's laughing hysterically at the jokes. Then as soon as the cameras fire up, I'm peppering the whole thing with great lines, great jokes. Nothing. Guy just stonewalls me the entire time. I'm like, what are you doing? Your job here is to be the straight guy to sell it. That's your job as a television host in that moment. And instead, he just let me bomb on TV for a good 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, this will help sell tickets. This is a lot of fun.
So see, no more laughing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
You
just want to lock it up, and then I'll really feel great about what we've done here today.
Is it made more difficult now because there's so many topics that are kind of off limits? I mean, there's still people like you watch a Bill Burr special. I mean, there's nothing off limits to him, and he gets away with it, but not for everybody, right?
Yeah, but that's also like, I don't really take into account people's opinions when I put stuff online. Sometimes a joke of mine might show up in your algorithm. You didn't necessarily ask for that, so I'm not going to take that criticism too heavily or personally. In the room, when there's people that came for comedy, those are the people that matter. Okay. And those are the people that paid for a ticket. They've got a voice in the process. So even Bill Burr with his stuff that, seems edgier, he worked that stuff out in clubs. Okay. So he finds the line, he goes past it many times, and then he readjusts to figure out how he can make a joke work. And really, there's a lot more segmented audiences these days. And a lot of people like to pretend to be mad online, but I have not found it to be a problem in the clubs at all. Okay. And touring, as long as you're not coming from a place of malice, you're usually okay. And sometimes you can even see the comedians that are just out there because maybe they've made a little too much money. They're not as hungry on stage, so they just want to rant about woke culture and all the online outrage and throwing buzzwords into their act. And you're like, all right, well, I know what you're doing. It's not very artistic. It's not very creative. But as long as you're not coming from a bad place, I think people get that. Yeah. I think they know that, like, we're trying to make you laugh. We're not out here. This isn't like a cable TV show where we're throwing out hot takes. Yeah. Everything we do is to try and get a laugh, try and make you forget about your problems for a couple hours and have a nice night out. So, there are things, some people will shy away from certain topics. I have kind of had the same recipe my entire career, which is just be authentic to who I am. Being a cleaner comic has certainly helped my career. You can tour more places. Your stuff gets played more on satellite radio and things like that.
You can do Cincinnati Cancer Foundation.
Exactly. That's right. I can do Wine, Women and Shoes without, I will say this. I could tell some jokes there that would make everyone hate me. Maybe I'll slide in one or two just to test the room, make sure people are paying attention. But I am able to play a lot of different rooms that some of my contemporaries are not. Yep. I can do the same. And I take pride in that too, of just when I was a New York City comic, I was one of the only ones in my group that had a wife and had a baby. And I would do those jokes for NYU crowds. I would do those for like the hipster rooms because they can't relate to that experience. Okay. If I tell those jokes in a Funny Bone, they're going to say, yes, I also have a 6-year-old. Excellent joke. But when you do those jokes to younger people, then you know if it's a good joke or not. Yeah. If they're laughing at that when they don't have the same exact life experience, it's just a good joke versus somebody that just super relates to, I also live in the suburbs and have a wife. Well done, So I do like to try and, take my stuff in front of different audiences. Yeah. And that kind of workshops it. It makes it a little bit stronger.
Gotcha. We were talking earlier and you just kind of touched on it as well, but I don't know that everybody always knows that. You were saying that, there are times some of these big name comedians might actually make like a surprise appearance. I mean, like maybe the audience doesn't know because they are there to work out some material.
Yeah, especially when you're in a bigger city, you'll have that a lot where, you know, I remember doing club spots in New York where it's a Monday night, there's 30 tourists there, and I mean, Dave Chappelle drops in unannounced because he's just working out new material. Now, he can't do that in an arena when people are paying $150 a ticket. You don't want to come out there and, like we said, just bomb for that, because then they're not going to spend $150 the next time you come back around.
Okay.
But, you know, it wasn't unusual to have Jim Gaffigan drop in on a bar show, or to have like a show in a restaurant where you've got, you know, 5 of the best touring comics doing material for an audience that didn't know comedy was even going to be happening.
Okay.
They think we went out for dinner tonight, and now there's 5 guys in the corner of a room telling us jokes about the subway. What is this? And it's like people you would have to pay $100 to see in the Midwest.
Okay.
You know?
But that's kind of the bargain is they're probably not doing the material that like the favorite bits.
Yeah.
Okay. They're doing new stuff.
But sometimes that's exciting.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of it, they're more excited about the new stuff anyway. I can speak from firsthand on that. It's like when you've got an idea you really like, you're like, I can't wait to take this to an audience. And it's a little bit looser, but it can be a little bit more energetic, because you can tell when a comic really wants to tell a joke versus, all right, I have to entertain a late show Friday night. Everybody's been working all day. Yeah. They're tired. They're a little too drunk. I'm going to play the hits here. I know I'll get some laughs, but you can also see the comic die a little bit in their eyes because they want to be telling their new stuff they're excited about.
That's cool. So, okay, so we talked about the event. That's next Thursday night, April 20th, the Manor House in Mason, Wine, Women and Shoes. So I think based on this conversation, and Chris helped remind me of this that night, but if you are really, really bad, if you're bombing, I will just say that you're there working out new material.
Yes, okay. That is where I go. I like to go to Wine, Women, and Shoes events all around the country, test out my material. Hopefully people will be drinking enough that it doesn't matter if I bomb. They'll laugh at anything. I like events like this, and I know you guys do a number of them, but like anything where you can just make bad decisions for a good cause. We're drinking, we're shopping. You might regret some of those decisions on a normal Thursday, but when you're doing it for a good cause, that's a lot easier to write off in your soul. You know, you can be bad for good. Nothing's better than that. You know,
we've got our tagline is great care begins with a great plan. We've talked about at some point in time that we may sunset that and pick a new line. So we'll have to keep make bad decisions for a good cause.
Be bad for good.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe a different tagline for the events. You know, if we're going to play golf and drink beer, but it's to raise money. If we're going to drink wine and buy shoes, it's for a good cause. So, you know, that's much better than just drinking wine and buying stuff on your own or with 1 or 2 friends. At least now we're doing it together and it will make an impact.
That's right. Thanks for coming out, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks
we're
for
looking forward
me.
to next Thursday, everybody. You can still get tickets. Probably the simplest way is just to go to the Cincinnati Cancer Advisors .org website. There's a link at the top for shoes. You can also click on our events page. But we're getting low on tickets. Chris, we're down to less than 30 or 40, I think, aren't we?
Under 50 for sure, maybe close to 30, 40.
Okay. All right. So let's sell this thing out. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark. And we'll see you everybody soon.
Yeah, we'll hang out soon.
All right, cool.